there. So I've been talking a lot about Priscilla lately. I love her story, and hopefully you've seen the first two videos so you've gotten to know Priscilla a little bit. And if you haven't, you need to read Acts because she's in there several times, 7, I think, to be exact. But this week, I want to talk to you about Priscilla's being prepared. Have you ever considered that your whole life has been a preparation for this moment? All the good, all the bad, God uses it all. My favorite verse is Romans 8:28, which says that God works all things for good for those who love him. So if I love him, that means that all of the things in my past, all the good things, all the bad things, all the mistakes, God will use for good today. And I don't know how he does that, but he does. I'm Lynn Madransky, and I wrote a book called Embracing Your Priscilla. So I've been just sharing a little bit on YouTube about that book. And especially if you're going through it and you're doing the discussion questions, I'm kind of sharing my answers to those discussion questions. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of how you might answer them in case you're like, what is she talking about there? So one of the things that I asked, and I shared this on my Facebook page, was all the things that I have done in my life. And I have quite a list. I have this list right here. And these are all the jobs that I remember that I have had all of my life, beginning with babysitting and ending with being an author. I have worked in a number of restaurants. I started in a little Dairy Queen. I've worked in a recording studio. I sang with a band, and even your volunteer experiences, they make a difference. And I sang with a band called Crossroads to Glory. I've led music at vacation Bible schools, even ones that weren't my church. There were other churches who needed a music leader, and they asked me to do it. So I would go in and lead music at their VBS. But all of those things prepared me for where I am today. And it's a lot like Barnabas. Have you ever considered Barnabas? He gets just barely mentioned. Yet he had as big a ministry as Paul, and who knows whether Paul would be the man that we read about without Barnabas. But Barnabas had some training as a young boy, and he obviously had a skill set that he developed that made him be an encourager. And we don't know for sure what it was, but Barnabas had a strong upbringing that made him who he is. And maybe some of it was negative, and maybe he learned who he didn't want to be. Another thing that I find interesting is how God uses your personality traits, because we're all so different. I am the kind of person who overthinks things. Other people like Peter, Peter, whatever came into his brain, came out his mouth. I'm not like that. I overthink things way too much. And a lot of times that can be a bad personality trait because a lot of times it holds me up. It's one of the reasons Romans 8:28 became my favorite verse, because I used to overthink things so much that I wouldn't step forward in faith and do things. So I had to remind myself, all right, even if this is a mistake, Jesus is going to make it into something good. But on the other hand, that same personality trait has prepared me to be kind to people. It's prepared me to think before I talk. Very seldom does something come out of my mouth that I haven't overthought, which again is sometimes a bad thing, but it often is a good thing. And I'm a firm believer that your worst personality traits can often be your best personality traits. So think about your personality traits and how they've prepared you to be where you are now. And then another thing that prepares us that we don't like to think that prepares us are our problems. Oh, don't we wish we didn't have to have them? But would you be the person you are today without those problems? Because each of those problems has formed you into who you are now. I spent a good part of my 18 to 20, 30 something years broke because I got married way too young, had a baby way too young. And God blessed me with a wonderful husband and a daughter that I just couldn't ask any more of. But Despite the fact that I'm blessed, those things caused a lot of problems in my life, but they've prepared me. Now I can help people who are struggling financially, because I know what it's like to only have $1.18 left in my checking account and still need to go get groceries. I know what that's like. So I can help people. So your problems prepare you. If you've had illnesses, if you have weird diseases that nobody's heard of, those things prepare you to be in ministry, to help other people. And then the other thing that has prepared me for where I am now are the people who've prayed for me in the past. I know that my mom and my dad and my grandparents and others before me prayed for me. And sometimes when I do genealogy, I wonder if generations before didn't pray for me, because I have a lot of history of pastors in my genealogy. But one person I know for sure prayed for me was my grandmother, because my grandmother was just a prayer. When I got her Bible, I asked my mom, I said, why did she bother underlining and highlighting? Because it's all underlined and highlighted. Because my grandmother was a woman of faith, and she loved Jesus so very much. So I know that she prayed, and I know that she prayed for me. And I really believe that a lot of the blessings that my family and my nieces and nephews and even cousins are experiencing now are because my grandmother prayed. So it makes me, it encourages me to be a prayer warrior. But it also prepared me to be where I am now, because someone prayed for me years ago. I know my aunt prayed for me. My aunt was a strong prayer warrior, and I know that she prayed for me too. But it makes me wonder, who can I pray for? Whose life can I change? Whose life can I make a difference in because I pray for them? So those are just a few things that you can think about today as you think about how God has been preparing you for this moment in your life and preparing you for a ministry, something great in the kingdom that you may have never considered before, because you are important. Just like Priscilla was very important in Corinth and Ephesus, you are important. You are vital. You are needed. So go ahead, embrace your Priscilla.